My mom died of a brain aneurysm 2 years ago. She was 39 at the time. She and Dad, Ben, 42, were no longer together because Dad had an affair with his work colleague, Amanda, 47. They were getting a divorce, but Mom passed before it was finalized. I was 18 at the time, and to be honest, I resented my dad because of the heartache he caused my mother, and I blamed him for her passing. After Mom's funeral, I refused to talk to him until recently. He contacted me and we started to reconnect. He and Amanda are still together, and I have started to accept their relationship because I saw how happy my father is with her. Last month, Dad informed me that he and Amanda had gotten engaged, and he wanted to let me know first before he shared the news with everyone. I told him I was happy for them. Last week, they had an engagement party where they invited some of our relatives and friends. During the toast, Dad said something like, "I just can't wait to marry the perfect woman. I thank God for giving me the love of my life after all those years that I wasted with someone else." I walked out of the room after hearing what my father said. He considered his marriage to my late mother a waste of his time. It broke my heart, and I wanted to leave right away. But Dad's friend, my godfather, and Amanda followed me. Amanda said that Dad wanted me to share a message, but I told her I couldn't do that and needed to go as I felt sick. My godfather tried to convince me to stay and say a few words. I got tired of holding my anger in, and I just said, "I have no good words to say about my cheating father and his mistress. I need to go." Amanda got angry with me and called me an idiot, and I need to get over the past. I didn't even say anything and just left them behind. I was with my boyfriend, who picked me up when Dad called, and he was furious with me. Apparently what I said made Amanda cry, and he's now demanding an apology. He also accused me of ruining his engagement party. I told him I could have made a scene, but I didn't, and there is no way I am apologizing for stating facts. Am I the idiot? Did I overreact and ruin their party? My boyfriend said he understands how I feel, but my grandparents, Dad's side, are disappointed with me for overreacting and calling Amanda a mistress. Not the idiot. Your father stood up and announced to a room full of people that his first marriage, and by extension, you, a product of that marriage, was a waste of time. Where is his apology for you? OP, tell your grandparents and father this, through your godfather if necessary. Your dad has made a series of poor judgment calls in his relationship with you. You have every right to be hurt and angry, but if you decide to patch things up with him, you can set boundaries. One is that he never desecrates your mother's memory again. Does your dad's side of the family know that your dad had an affair with Amanda while married to your mom? Because I don't get how they're disappointed with you calling Amanda a mistress. Also, I have no clue why they wanted you to speak after your dad insulted your mom. Like, what? It almost sounds like you were set up, and your dad just wanted to be cruel and hurtful to you. I gasped when I read his toast. It was so cruel. Not only did he invalidate your mom, but he also invalidated you as a product of these wasted years. Screw him. You are not the idiot for calling her his mistress. That's just accurate. It was not the best timing for doing it, but you tried to leave, and she was trying to pull you back in. I'm sorry people tried to stop you and force you to play happy families. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope you have more insightful family members who can support you. I think the definition of mistress fits them perfectly. Just because the wife died doesn't mean the infidelity has never happened, or that they both willingly did so knowing the wife existed. Cynically, I would throw gasoline on the entire situation by explaining that your dad cheated on his wife with a woman who knew she was wrecking the marriage and continued through her decline. I would point out that the dad cannot be trusted not to lie and cheat with another person once they get bored with their current toy. Likewise, the mistress cannot be trusted and will lie and cheat with another married man once she gets bored of her current conquest. Then point that out to everyone who tries to force you to apologize. I'm a pretty handy guy. My dad had a home remodeling business, and I worked for him all through high school and college, even after that when he was really busy. My wife Susan and I renovated our whole house during lockdown. My wife has a terrible habit of volunteering my help to people without asking me first. We have fought about this in the past, and I've told her I would not do it in the future. My wife sells real estate, and she had been looking for a house for her brother Paul and his family. The housing market here is insane, so finding something they can afford has been a real challenge. In late August, my wife announced she finally found a place and wanted me to take a look. Susan talks about what a great deal the house is because it needs a little work. The house is a mess. There is a ton of work, including redoing the kitchen and bathrooms, fixing drywall, and a lot more. I asked him who he would get to do the work, thinking I could recommend some guys who used to work with my dad. Susan and Paul looked at each other, and then she says that she is sure the two of you can do it. Well, first of all, me and him would mean me, as Paul has no home improvement skills at all. I just said no way. Paul asked me what I meant, and I told him that a ton of work needed to be done, and I wasn't signing on for it. I am not spending every weekend for months working on someone else's house. Susan and I argued about it, but I refused to budge. Susan said fine if I don't help. She and Paul would do it themselves. I should say that while Susan did help with our renovation, particularly things like painting, I did the bulk of the work. I know my wife, and I know she's thinking that I'll end up giving in and helping. I warn her that I mean it, I'm not helping. She says she and Paul can do it. Paul buys the house. Well, it goes about how I expected, meaning very badly. They had estimated it would take 2 months to make the house livable enough for the family to move in. 6 weeks in, and they have made little progress on the meat of the house. My wife is getting more and more irritated with me. I never bring up the house, and I refuse to engage when Susan brings it up. I am taking next week off of work, and I told Susan I would take care of our house and kids. Typically, we split up the chores while I was off. She hit the roof. She told me that if I was off for a week, then I should be helping with her brother's house. She brought up that they had 2 weeks to make it livable, or he would have to pay both the mortgage and rent for his apartment, and he can't afford that. I replied that I told her from the beginning that I wasn't helping, and I meant it. My wife is now not speaking to me. According to her, I hate her family. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. However, I know that her brother is the one that is going to get hurt. Am I the idiot for refusing to help? Not the idiot. Your wife doesn't seem to respect you. All you're doing is respecting yourself. Maybe volunteer your wife to be your friend's realtor commission-free. See how she likes it. This is not petty. This is turning the coin to see what it's like on the other side. She lacks empathy for her own husband, and until she sees what it is like, she will continue to maintain her selfish attitude. Not the idiot. Why does your wife think it's okay to think she can volunteer your time? It's time for them to man up and pay someone to finish the basics of the house so they can move in. That's a lot of work from the sound of it. It's not about being mean or hating on the family, but you value your time unless brother-in-law would like to pay you for your service as a skilled professional. Buying the house knowing it needs a certain degree of work means you have to have the money to buy the house, plus pay for the work needed to be done. If he didn't bother to work those costs into the final sale/mortgage total, that's on him. I don't know how your wife is equating you not taking on a job you literally said you wouldn't do as you hating her family, but whatever. It sounds like she expected you to cave, and you're not. Good on you. This is a huge ask of you, and they're acting very entitled. My 41 male, friend 43 male, passed away 4 months ago. He had a wife, Nancy, 41, a daughter and a son, teens. Since the death of my friend, I've been watching out for Nancy and her children. I go to Nancy's house every 2 weeks to see her and her children. I have built a strong relationship with them, so they see me as a safe presence in their lives aside from Nancy. Nancy has not received therapy, only the children. I also know that Nancy has depression and other mental health problems. I have tried to convince her to receive treatment, but she refuses. So until a few days ago, I thought that everything was fine between the children and Nancy. Yesterday, I got a call from the daughter. She told me that her mom has been behaving erratically for a few days and that she and her brother were afraid for their mother. So she asked me if I could please get them both out of there. I accepted. I picked them up and took them home. They called their grandparents and told them where they were. Their grandparents have no problem with them staying with me. Then I went back to Nancy's house, where I found her in a bad emotional state. I tried to talk to her and make her see reason. I told her that when her own children are worried about her, something is really wrong and that she needs to receive therapy. This made her very angry. and she began to yell at me that I did not understand what she was feeling and that therapy was not going to bring her husband back. I replied that I did not care what she felt. She needed to suck it up because she has children who depend on her. She called me an idiot and kicked me out of her house. Now even my friends are mad at me. They say I shouldn't have said that to a grieving woman and that I'm an idiot for telling her that I don't care how she feels. They say I should apologize to her and take her children home again because they belong with their mother. Oh, I was so prepared to call you the idiot. But no, not the idiot. You didn't say you don't care how she feels. You said you don't care what her excuse is for not taking care of her kids. And make no mistake, that's the heart of the matter. The kids don't feel safe. So if she isn't willing to get help, it might be time to involve outsiders. The kids come first. He should have just notified the grandparents and let her mom and dad give her the come to Jesus talk. In her state of mind, no way was she ever going to listen to him, but she may have taken it in if her parents said it. So OP needs to call her parents and tell them to come and help her because she will listen to them. Yes, OP was harsh, but he spoke the truth, but she will never hear it coming from him. I was around my mom when she was in a highly depressive state. I won't go into details, but those days still haunt me mentally over 10 years later. Those kids have lost their dad. They need their mom. When people are in that state, there is no reasoning with them. And honestly, some decisions might be required to force her to accept help. Her kids need to be protected from this. People may disagree with me, but everyone in this family deserves help. I, 33 female, have a pretty large book collection. My niece, pre-tween, loves to read the books I have whenever she comes over. So for her birthday last week, I decided that I would gift her my entire collection of kids' books that my mother gave me when I was a child. A few that were included were antique children's books that originally belonged to my mother's grandmother. They were gifted to me when my mother passed a couple of years ago, but I don't want my own children, so I thought it would be better to pass them down. My niece loved her gift, and there was no problems at the party. However, a few days later, my brother-in-law, 35, and sister, 32, called and started to yell at me over one of the books that I had gifted. It was one of the older books, and it was about Jesus. They were upset because they both are atheists and didn't think it was appropriate to give my niece a book about religion. I understood, but it was never my intention to try to sway my niece to religion. I'm an atheist as well, and since the book was an heirloom item, I just wanted to pass it down. I explained that Mom had wanted me to pass all the books down, but they still didn't care. Now they won't let me see my niece unless I apologize. But I don't think I did anything wrong. My sister and I weren't raised religious, so I don't understand the issue. Am I the idiot for gifting my niece a book about Jesus? I understand where you're coming from, but you are the idiot. For what would be considered touchy topics, and yes, religion is very touchy for many people, it would have been best to clear the gift with your sister and brother-in-law, especially with them being heirlooms. You want them to know the books are to be treated with care. Kids can be rough on items, especially things they don't like or are bored with. Ahem, textbooks. If you value your relationship with your niece, apologize and move on. Not the idiot for a few reasons. First, it's a family heirloom. The purpose of family heirlooms is to pass down the stories of previous generations, and part of her great-great-grandmother's story is that she was a Christian. Second, a truly well-rounded child should be introduced to a wide variety of religions. There are things that can be learned from every religion, and you don't need to be religious to learn those things. If your sister and her husband won't budge, you could apologize for not giving the books to them first to look over, or sending them the titles before gifting them to your niece. You are the idiot. You're aware that the parents are both atheists. I understand that it's a family heirloom, but you should have at least checked in with the parents about giving your niece the book, since it is about a topic that they may not want their child exposed to at this age. Maybe they don't want to have the talk about religion with the child yet. Maybe not. In any case, it's their choice. Them wanting an apology from you is not unreasonable. Also, if you didn't know the book was in there, that's negligence on your part. My male 46, daughter, teen, is a high school junior. I noticed recently that she's been behaving badly, constantly commenting on other people's looks, belongings, calling them stuff that isn't cool, and just being insensitive. It's like she lost a filter or something, because usually she's polite. But my wife suspected that our daughter's sudden misbehavior occurred after she started hanging out with new girls from the school. So basically the mean type, and have picked up on their behavior. So I've sat with my daughter and had many discussions about how her behavior is negatively affecting everyone. Our housemaid is the person most affected here, and my daughter has chosen her to be her target for hair, clothes, etiquette, criticism. She has complained about our daughter calling her offensive names, like filthy and gross, for cleaning certain areas in our house. I took a stand and explicitly told my daughter I'd punish her if she ever said stuff like that to our housemaid again. Last week, my daughter had a party to go to. Earlier that day, she called her housemaid filthy, so I grounded her by not letting her go to the party. She threw a fit and called her housemaid a liar, saying she never called her that. That was the end of it. Days later, my daughter came to me, saying that she couldn't find her iPhone after looking everywhere. She asked me to call her number, and I did. My wife and I were stunned to discover that the iPhone was ringing inside our housemaid's bag. I had a confrontation with her immediately, and she denied and cried, saying she never touched the phone, nor had any idea how it got there. I noticed my daughter calling her a thief repeatedly, so I told her to stop and go to her room. Before continuing the argument, I checked the indoor camera and saw my daughter place her iPhone inside our housemaid's bag. I was livid. I apologized to the housemaid and gave her the rest of the day off. I then showed the video to my daughter, and she was absolutely speechless. I said what she did was immoral and straight up offensive to tamper with that poor woman's livelihood over a petty party she couldn't go to. I told her she was grounded and would have to spend the night in the backyard. She is a germaphobe, but she cried, begging me not to make her sleep with the dirt, insects, and hot temp. I refused to discuss it, or I'd make it 2 nights. My wife said I should go easy on her, but I said calling people filthy and accusing them of stealing wasn't okay. It was the absolute worst. I then went through with my punishment. The reason I chose this punishment was that my daughter says that she's a germaphobe and uses this as an excuse to insult others' hygiene and appearance. Our backyard has dirt and bugs in it, and these kinds of things get her uncomfortable. But other than that, the backyard is 100% safe. Why doesn't she clean up and do house chores as punishment instead? Because I've already tried this punishment before, and it didn't work because she deliberately stopped eating for days to get out of it and ended up in the emergency department for low blood pressure. Not the idiot, but you should give your housekeeper a week off with pay and make your daughter take her place, unpaid. Or just tell the housekeeper to stop cleaning up after the daughter. Don't clean her room, don't do her dirty laundry. The daughter will suffer much more with this because she's a self-proclaimed germaphobe. I will probably be extremely downvoted for this, but this is a hard, everyone's the idiot here. Those mean girls didn't poison OP's daughter. If you look at his comments, this nearly adult girl can't even clean her own room. She has this mindset that cleaning is beneath her. She is highly unprepared for her future, and OP has set her up for failure. How is she going to move out? Is she going to live with them forever? Or will mommy and daddy pay for her housekeeping services too? Then to top it all off, the way this is going, she will surely abuse her housemaid if they do that. In a way, I can't blame her. This issue has been in the making her whole life. She has lived this way because OP has allowed it.